It's a live stream. Gang, fam. It's good. Good to have you all on. Hey, thanks everyone for joining. It still says Zigmund Reichenbach show, but it's actually just a stream now. It's not a show. I'm not preparing segments, although presumably I could. I'm just not, because I don't think it's necessarily useful to have a show. I don't think we need any more shows. We probably just need people hanging out, streaming, thinking, helping people get new and better ideas. So I'm grateful for all that have joined. But also, the difference between my stream and other streams is that it's a lot easier for people to just say whatever it is that they want about politics, because you can just endlessly spout off nonsense, because human error, particularly in politics, is so much greater than people doing reasonable and good things, that it's easy to talk about politics forever. So you have streamers out there that can just go on and on and on. You have news shows that just go on and on and on. So they have an easy job, and I'm trying to do something different. I'm trying to inspire people by helping them become more thoughtful, more aware of what's going on, to just try to think in general. I think that doesn't happen to the degree that it should. But if you're here and you're watching, we'd love to have you. Make sure you comment so I know you're here. There's points in the show you want to talk about. If there's a thought or idea that you want to talk about, drop it in the comments. We'll talk to you. But I also know that I said that I'd have a guest today, and I didn't. So we'll work on that. We'll get guests. We'll find some interesting people. It's a hair challenging. I'm trying to get back on track in terms of streaming, focusing on that and just getting comfortable. Once streaming something, like once you're out of it, you're just sort of rusty or off track. And then some of the other streams that I made before relied more heavily on different streaming gimmicks that exist. I used to do this funny thing called Action Boy of the Week, where I just nominate somebody for a funny fake award. And I could do that again, and I'm sure I could get a lot of viewers that way. But it's sort of a gimmick. So I'm not doing that. But I am happy to talk about whatever it is that you guys would love to talk about. Again, drop a comment. Glad for everyone that's checked in here. But I also want to point out that the reason why this stream just isn't about politics anymore is because I think politics is becoming a force that's just monopolizing people's attention and getting people to sort out into tribes in a way that's not helpful anymore. And I think that the lack of connection we have with others is just a result of this politicization of all things, where people have just very narrow in tribal interests. And I think our goal should be to expand interest in other people. And I think our goal should be to encourage people to know and do more. But for instance, I think if we really cared about other people and had more compassion towards others, we wouldn't sort ourselves into political tribes. We wouldn't presume that others do the same. We wouldn't presume that we know about other people. And we do more to take a personal interest in the people that we meet. So I think politicians are out there to undo all that, just so they can gain a fake sense of status, prestige, comfort. And I don't think that that's worth it. I mean, I think it's getting to the point where people are dehumanizing others and really not believing in others. Politics is causing us to not believe in other people. And to me, that's not politics. That's something else. And if we have to dehumanize other people to get ahead, then we're not making any progress towards anything. So I don't want to, make my whole stream about politics, although some aspects are political. But I just think it's not helpful to engage in just totally political conversation. So just putting that out there, I could talk about politics again, perhaps out of a greater wider interest, but there's just not much to it. I did read a book the other day, or started to, so that's good news. Back on track on reading. It's called Let Colleges Fail. And so the entire premise of the book is the fact that in the private sector, we let companies fail. We do so for good reason, because when companies fail, then obviously they're going to have reason and means to innovate. And at this point in time, we're not letting universities fail. We have graduation rates in Pennsylvania in universities under 35%, meaning that you have universities out there that know that the majority of the people that they recruit are not going to graduate, and they're still comfortable taking their federal dollars and then leaving them with nothing. And that's because we refuse to let universities that deserve to fail. And meanwhile, they're just extorting people, extorting kids. And so this book, Let Colleges Fail, highlights all the principles and good reasons as to why more universities should fail, and that we really shouldn't be alarmed by that fact. I mean, for one, just on the basis that universities have become inherently political, and for the administrators and the leaders of these universities, it's more about getting people to believe in the politics that their faculty and staff want rather than helping them think. And so therefore we don't have an objection to, or we don't have a duty to help these universities grow, and they're just not fulfilling any duty to help people think clearly. Being on somebody's political side doesn't mean that you're thinking clearly or that you're even doing the right thing. So we shouldn't feel any shame in letting more universities fail. I mean, think about the rampant nonsense that's gone on in the university industry that's just been fundamentally let go. We have long times to get degrees. People are getting 4-year degrees when in other countries you can get them in 3. How does that make any sense? On top of that, there's diminishing returns on degrees. It's not clear that degrees anymore even signify anything at all. It's not clear that they provide anybody with any real substantive value. And you have professors that treat themselves as if they're some part of some intellectual aristocracy when they're not even that intellectual anymore. There's just no reason to let these universities go so we can have people pretend like they deserve to rule the world. And even more insane in these places is the fact that we have mandatory subsidies to athletic departments that generally lose value. We're mandatorily subsidizing athletic departments that nobody really has any clear demand for, other than for alum to get a fake sense of contributing to this athletic department that does nothing, a fake sense of entertainment and meaning. We're subsidizing athletic departments, and I know I used to wrestle in a D3 school, and it did absolutely nothing for me. It was probably more prohibitive to my development than anything else that I could have chosen to do. And yet we keep funding these colleges that have no interest in your well-being. They don't have any interest in my well-being or anyone's in general. But societally, these universities have also locked us into the belief that degrees alone confer some sort of socio-political moral value that they actually don't. And so it's stopping people from becoming upwardly mobile, because people have been wed to this belief that you have to have some kind of fake degree to have some kind of worth and dignity as a person. And it's making the market so bad for people, because employers want people with degrees that absolutely mean nothing. And then people can't move from one job to another to get better opportunities, because employers are just looking at degrees. Like the university system has made employers lazy. It's made employers unwilling to innovate. It's had employers totally overlook people's actual skills and try to assess for competency. And it's all because of this arbitrary university system that has no value for anybody and is not going to create value anytime soon. I mean, it's made things worse for both the middle and lower class people, and so we should feel comfortable letting these universities fail, because really they pass on or transmit just a anti-competence bias. That's what goes on in the university system. Is they're against competence, and they'd rather have people just be stamped with some fake degree that means nothing. And then they've made that the dominant way of looking at things in society in general. Is an anti-competence bias that's in favor of arbitrary degrees, arbitrary achievements, and just arbitrary things in general. So the book Let Colleges Fail, pick that up. It's actually out there by Cato Institute and published by Cato Institute. So definitely worth looking at. And in that book, they highlight 10 reasons as to why universities should be allowed to fail. There's been for decades declining enrollment rates that continue to get worse, and yet more universities aren't failing. If any other business failed to the degree that the universities did, they would never be allowed to exist, and no taxpayer funds would ever go to them at all, ever. And despite that fact, we still insist on propping them up, and we insist on doing so, despite the fact that the public has a low opinion of the university system in general. So, it's just one of those things that totally makes no sense. On top of that, these same systems do not facilitate debate. It's not a place of intellectual exploration or exercise. It's just a one size fits all system that again wants ideological mandates. That's destroying the middle class, has been for some time, and will continue to do so. So that's a problem. Major problem, and it's worth noting. I mean, it's actually in many ways only getting worse. The intellectual diversity in these campuses it's becoming less diverse. There's less and less debate there. But the overall puzzling thing is that there's not meaningful alternatives that could exist if more universities fail. I mean, just imagine this. Just imagine a system where you can get the equivalent of a degree in 3 years sooner, and then you can get on and get on with your life and do so in a way that's more productive, healthy, and beneficial. Wouldn't that be nice? So I think we'll have a shorter show today, but I do want to talk about that because it's important to really question aspects of society. And it doesn't have to be political, although that could be taken as a political statement, I suppose, that we shouldn't fund universities. But I really think that there should be bipartisan consensus that it's a useless system. or it's becoming increasingly useless and in many ways harmful to more people. The big thought I had this week was that we have a moral obligation to make choices. So for instance, if we believe in personal responsibility, then we should do more to make sure that people have more choices and more aspects and facets of their life than what we've ever done before. Because responsibility entails making choices, so therefore we should do more to help people make more choices. And the more choices people have, the more responsibility people can exercise fundamentally. And it's contrary to what's going on with our government, where our government continuously limits choices in what people can say, think, or do. And it goes on and on and on for some time. And then that gives people less of an opportunity to exercise personal responsibility and good judgment. Just turns out that people turn out to be totally dependent on government in general because they're taking away our choices. And you can't have a responsible citizenry if you're not allowing them to both make choices on their own and fail. And yet the government takes away choices, so then people have no responsibility in life to anybody or anything. So I think that's an observation that goes underlooked, or overlooked, forgive me, that if you believe in personal responsibility, you have to believe in things like the free market. You have to believe in trade. You have to believe in immigration to some degree so that people have more choices to make. Because choices are the basis of personal responsibility. And it's just so amazing that nobody has honestly spent much time thinking about that, because the same people that say that they support and care about personal responsibility have gotten rid of the choices that make people more responsible and have better judgment, and instead do things like let the public school system just run rampant without any regard for what's going on. But if people actually made more choices, including on major things like school choice, then we'd have a more responsible country. We'd have more responsible citizens. Everybody would have more responsibility because there's more choice. And clearly that would make for a better world. That's what progress is. Progress is choice. Progress is personal responsibility, an ever increasing amount of personal responsibility for yours and others' well-being. That's what progress is. And yet that's being whittled down by people just refusing to make choices, having somebody else make choices for them. So that's a big thought I had this week. And I know that I'd also have, or promised, some writing. I haven't done that either. I've been, once again, mixed up. We got different things going on here between Kathleen and I, in terms of what's going on, things of that nature. And when we're ready to announce all that good stuff, we certainly will. But it does complicate things in terms of the amount of time we have. And for me personally, I need to be in a stronger routine. And if I get out of that, then I may never come back or get back to that routine. So I need to do that to be more productive when it comes to writing. So, but we're on a short show today. One thing I was doing is I was reading a tragedy, Faust by the famous German author Goethe. And some of the passages in that, so I'm reading the Essential Goethe edited by Matthew Bell. I'm not sure who the translator is, but it's from Princeton. I just wanted to share some lines because they're so clear, inspiring, and good. And really, it gets people more towards art. I think if people had a better appreciation and understanding for art, they would have more of a commitment to making the world a better and more beautiful place that enhances life joy for all of us. So that's why I wanted to share something like this, so that way maybe somebody can hear some art or add some art into their life to make it better and fundamentally more pleasant. So these lines, it's a dialogue between Faust and Mephisto, and it's an ongoing dialogue back and forth. I just wanted to highlight these lines because they're particularly well written and just novel fundamentally in their expression. So Faust says, "Listen, it's not on happiness I'm bent. I want a frenzied round of agonizing joy, of loving hate, of stimulating discontent. Learning and knowledge I now leave behind. I shall not flinch from suffering or despair. And in my inner self I wish to share the whole experience of humankind, to seek its heights, its depths, to know within my heart its joys and all its woe. Identify myself with other men and blend my life with theirs, and like them, perish in the end." So those are brilliant lines from the great German author Goethe, and it's just an interesting idea that somebody isn't seeking happiness in life, that somebody like Faust wants agonizing joy, of loving hate, of stimulating discontent. That's not something that you hear people pursue or express that way, but I suppose that's what it does indeed mean to be human, or to be most humans. Stimulating discontent. I think more people should have that in their hearts. I think it'd do a lot to shake people from a sense of complacency, and then therefore be able to do more to contribute to their own lives and others. Stimulating discontent. That's how life should be lived. That should be the purpose of life. At least, well, for more people, probably more Americans, we live in the greatest time, the wealthiest, most prosperous, powerful time in all of human history. And instead of seeking stimulating discontent, we're looking for cheap and easy comfort, which fundamentally is a shame. So worth thinking about there for sure, and worth reading. So, good. It's a good read. Yeah, and I think more people should do more of that instead of listening to political pundits. But hey, I just said I was going to do a short show today. We're going to get back. We're going to do bigger. We're going to get things back on schedule, back on track. It just takes a minute. That's all. I used to do streams more frequently. Just, well, so it is. So in the meantime, we'll see y'all. We appreciate you coming by. We'll give you an hour-long show sometimes. Part of it is I also have to judge how many good or interesting things I can say in this stream, and then come up with the content again. In politics, you don't have to say anything interesting. You can just go on and on and on and say how everything's terrible. But that's not really what my goal is. So I just need a better understanding of how much I have to write to have a compelling or useful show. And heck, perhaps if I start doing more of my own writing, then fumble, then I won't have this problem. So that's all for now. We'll see y'all later.